everybody files in, it's still feels like a mystical process somehow, that the moment when the crowd arrives into the Zoom cubes. Thank you all for being here for today's Brooklyn Rail Wednesday afternoon poetry reading. This is the 632nd episode of the new social environment and the 100th of these poetry readings, and we are truly honored to have Sahar Muradi organizing this reading today, and the readers will include Sahar, Zeina Hashem Beck, Hyejung Kook, Jasmin Eli Washington, and Mina Zohal. The one thing to know, if you haven't been to one of these readings before, is that it's a good idea to keep an eye on the chat, as various bits of information about the readers, what they're working on, links to their publications will get put on as each person comes up to read. There'll also be some information on the Brooklyn Rail itself. My name is Anselm Berrigan. I'm the poetry editor for the Rail, and I work with Carol Ann and Chloe and Raven and everybody involved with this, putting these readings together. And now I'm going to try to figure out where all my windows are that have the information that I need. Our first reader is going to be Hyejung Kook, whose work is forthcoming or has recently appeared in the in Pleiades, the Bear Review, the Laureate Review, which I may be mispronouncing, Poetry Magazine, and They Rise Like a Wave, an anthology of Asian American women poets, as well as other places. Other works include an essay in the Critical Flame and a chamber operetta libretto. Born in Seoul, Korea, she now lives in Kansas with her husband and their 2 children. Please welcome Hyejung to the Brooklyn Rail.
Hi, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be taking part in the, I guess, centennial radical poetry reading. Thank you so much, Sahar, for inviting me, and everyone for coordinating this. And I look forward to hearing everyone else's work. I'm going to read 4 poems today. I'm going to be kind of alternating between heavier and lighter work. So this first poem was published in Hanging Loose, and it references miscarriage and abortion. Not a flower. Holding fast, bound up by grief so tightly, any loosening is unbearable. Everything tangled and clenched like a peony bud trapped in a blue vase. When the outermost petals finally peel back, the bud softens but never opens, only withers into an unfreeable knot. Except the flower is not a flower. It is my body trying to ripen but failing, still clinging to what doctors call retained products of conception, with a precision brutal in its detachment, except it won't detach, the placenta that is, or what was becoming the placenta. But I want to wait. I don't want to induce with medication. I can't bear the thought of a DNC forcing open the cervix and scraping out what's inside, however gently. I know it wasn't a baby yet, just a little knot of cells, not even an embryonic pole, no knowing where the head or little toe would have been. But all the rigging for a baby is still inside me after weeks, and my doctor says there's risk of infection. I shouldn't wait any longer. So I take 4 white tablets and push them up inside me before bedtime, lie next to my husband, who strokes my hair as I wait for the bleeding and cramping to start, flanked by 2 bottles of prescription medication I will not take for the pain, because I need to feel every moment of this, because this is me losing my pregnancy, and I need to feel the pain, because this is all I will get. Soon after I found out I was miscarrying, I passed a little grayish clump in the shower, and thinking it was the gestational sac, collapsed like a slack sail in the first ultrasound. I took pictures, then stuck it in the fridge in a Ziploc bag, telling myself it was to show the doctor, but I didn't. I couldn't bear the thought of washing what might have been my baby down the drain. But after weeks wedged between old vegetables and Chinese takeout, I finally threw it away. It was not a baby. I'm not having a baby. I'm lying in bed bleeding straight through my pad and my clothes and the folded towel underneath me, feverish, sweating as the pain tightens and loosens its grip, as if a real fist is crushing my uterus, squeezing out red black clots 3 inches in diameter. 2 weeks later, the ultrasound indicates vascularized tissue remains. I can hear the amplified sound of blood rushing uselessly to a clump no larger than the tip of my pinky finger, my body trying to feed the baby I'm not having, and I have to take another dose of misoprostol, cramp, and bleed. 2 more weeks, the ultrasound still shows veins webbing a shadow barely 14 millimeters across. It's time, says the doctor, to consider a D&C. I've been miscarrying for 6 weeks now, and I'm tired of feeling broken, and I sign the paperwork, not sure if I can bear it. But my husband asks if I want to wait, and I do, despite what the doctor says. So I gather myself up again, hope that this time the body will finally drop what I can't carry. So I ended up knowing I was miscarrying for 8 weeks before everything passed. I'm so grateful I had the choices I did for my care at that time. And in retrospect, I would have done the D&C having gone through what I did. So it's very important to me about the rights that we have to our bodies. Okay, so I apologize for the beeping. That is a smoke alarm detector I can't reach because it's too high. So I apologize. But this next poem is inspired by Lucille Clifton's Blessing the Boats, and it appears on the forthcoming anthology Poetry as Spellcasting, edited by Tamiko Bayer, Destiny Hempel, and Elizabeth White. Prayer for healing. May you listen to the wound. May you hear in the red noise of your pain the sweet song of a cardinal, a voice of living flame, or the voice of a loved one. May you trust the inner self that knows wholeness, that you are connected, you are infinite, you are loved. When you listen, may you hear what you need to heal, to live, to die with joy. So this poem was written mainly in the summer of 2020, a little bit of revision summer of 2021. So this is pandemic summertime. It appears in Curating Home, which is edited by Jose Faust, Marianne Kunkel, and Glenn North. And there's a content warning. It does mention children dying. A summer day. The kids are playing in the backyard pool. My son, 6, in the shallow end, diving for little hoops. My daughter, 4, holding onto the steps, blowing bubbles and kicking, both covered head to toe, sunscreen and white streaks across their faces and ears and necks, soft and skinny, the brownest part of them despite the many applications. And I marvel that such a slender thing can hold up their heavy heads. In anatomical drawing, the ideal figure has a head to body ratio of 1:8, but a toddler's is about 1:5. And now I'm thinking of my son as a newborn, my fear that if I didn't support his head just right, hand gripping gently yet firmly against the base of his skull, his neck might snap. I know now that little ones are tougher than I thought, that my child can fall out of a shopping cart headfirst onto concrete and be fine, that a child can sleep uninterrupted after a possible concussion, that their fevers run high, that brain damage doesn't occur until reaching 108 degrees Fahrenheit. But I also know that drowning doesn't look like drowning. A drowning person cannot wave their arms, but instead extends them laterally, pressing down, their mouth bobbing in and out of the water as they struggle to breathe. I know that it takes a single unguarded moment for a child to slip beneath the surface beyond notice. I can't help but recall the image of Alan Kurdi, his little toddler body lying face down at the beach as if asleep, his wet red shirt rucked up above his waist. And seeing it, I wanted to pull it down and cover the soft skin of his belly, the way I do for my sleeping children, because a bare tummy might make them sick. I know that immigrants and asylum seekers are dying in and shortly after detention, like Maria Juarez, not even 2 years old, who caught a respiratory infection at a center in Texas and ran a fever of over 104 degrees. When my own child's fever passed 104, despite cool compresses and dosing with acetaminophen and ibuprofen, we stripped down for skin to skin, which can help regulate body temperature. And I felt like a mad thing, rocking my child, feeling that limp body burn like a brand between my breasts for hours before the fever finally broke. But Maria grew sicker, and after release from detention, she died in a hospital from viral pneumonitis. We can't know if she'd have lived if she hadn't been detained, but we do know her mother, Yasmin, sent her daughter's body alone back to Guatemala to be buried with her relatives. I know thousands of detainees have tested positive for COVID-19. I know children who arrived without a parent or legal guardian have been held at Fort Sill, home to the Army's main artillery school, now designated as an emergency shelter, once a Japanese internment camp, or more precisely, as Lawson Fasao Inada writes, described by the War Relocation Authority as camps or centers for assembly, concentration, detention, evacuation, internment, relocation, among others. And earlier still, the place Geronimo and the other Chiricahua Apache were held 20 years in violation of their terms of surrender. And here I am, sitting in the shade of a magnolia, watching my children scream in delight, not drowning, the sun gleaming on the water and their upturned faces, the August heat a benediction rather than a scourge. And I wonder, what more should I be doing with this one life? So the last poem is a new poem, a joyful poem, which I wrote late spring. Thank you again so much for being here and listening. Suddenly, I remember we are meant for pleasure, tension and release, to be limp and pure in our bodies, limpid like a mountain pool, so clear the depths of us are revealed, the rough and lovely stones at the bottom, flecked with algae, all the little things living from that modesty, which in fact is abundance. Lately, I've been tired of the smallness of my life, though words at least have held me, the intimacy of how they vibrate through throat and mouth and skull to the tiny bones of my ear, how no one knows what my voice sounds like to me, except myself. I want to tighten the strings that have gone loose, discordant from neglect, to turn taut until I feel the shiver of when a note comes into itself, how it resonates untouched when an octave interval sounds, to have all of me humming with delight. I felt heavy so long, I've forgotten we are pure vibration, tiny particles whizzing about in our atoms, so much spaciousness within us. But suddenly I remember we are energetic, made of star stuff. We are entangled on a quantum level. I am not only I, and you are not only you. So won't you come with me to thrum with the joy of our bodies matter, of our mattering, then rest in the quiet that follows. Thank you.
Thank you, Hyejung. Thank you so much for reading and being here with us today. Our next reader is going to be Zeina Hashem Beck, whose third full-length poetry collection, O, was just published by Penguin Books last month. So congrats on that just coming out. Her collection, Louder Than Hearts, won the 2016 May Sarton New Hampshire Poetry Prize. She is also the author of 3 Arabic, I don't know how to pronounce
Arabi song.
Arabi song. Okay, there's just 3 there. Arabi song, winner of the 2016 Rattle Chapbook Prize. There was, and how much there was, a 2016 Laureate's Choice selected by Carol Ann Duffy, and To Live in Autumn, winner of the 2013 Backwaters Prize. Her work has appeared in The Atlantic, The Nation, The New York Times, Poetry, Ploughshares, World Literature Today, through the Academy of American Poets, and elsewhere. educated in Arabic, English, and French. Zeina has a BA and an MA in English Lit from the American University of Beirut. Please welcome Zeina to the rail.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and congratulations on this is the 100th reading, so it feels special. I also want to say Mabruk to Sahar, whose collection was just chosen as the Donald Hall Poetry Prize winner, October's, I believe. So Mabruk Sahar. I'm going to read 3 poems from O. I'm shamelessly flaunting it, order it. Sahar said that she kind of curated this reading as a poet mama's reading. So I'm going to start with a poem for my daughter, Aya. I am having a kind of a mommy morning this morning because as you'll notice in this poem, my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes a year ago, actually, a year exact. Oh my God. She was diagnosed on August 24th. Are we August 24th today? We are. Okay, I'm gonna try not to cry. It's been 1 year exactly. This is the last poem I wrote for O. And Naomi Shihabnai, who's here, published it in on poets.org. Hi, Naomi. It's called Time. Time, be kind to her. She's 11 and already wants to turn you back. She wished this after she squeezed a drop from her index and read me the number. She always insists I close my eyes and guess what her blood is saying. Sometimes I'm wrong and sometimes not. I kiss the tiny tears on her fingertips. I kiss her arms and thighs before the insulin. When I ask her to inject herself, I'm asking her to live without me, and she knows it. When her legs trembled and I soothed with, I'm here, she reminded me, but you can't do anything. Perhaps she meant undo. Who am I kidding? Time, I demanded your undoing too that first night in the hospital before dawn, when I woke up having forgotten, then remembered where I was, what had happened. The neon corridor light, the nurse's chatter, the potassium slow burn in my daughter's vein. Time, I know I can't reason with you. You go on and on. Instead, I'm wishing her astonishing slowness, softness inside the arduous and unfair. Like this, the dog's limp, the cold coffee, the struggling baby bougainvillea, the winged ant on the floor, the half-eaten sandwich, the tenderness of the 5 a.m. light, the daily departures, the basil plant's shadow on the wall, and her hair, the swing of my love's hair as she runs, shaking her head left and right, how she always ran like this, always ran as if swaying, no, no. All right, I'm going to read a bilingual poem. There are 6 bilingual poems in this collection, and I call them duets. The idea is if you only read English, you've got a poem in English. If you only read Arabic, you've got a poem in Arabic. And if you read both, then you kind of go across the page like this. And hopefully a 3rd poem opens up in the space of the conversation between the 2 languages. This is an ode to the Mediterranean Sea in Lebanon particularly, and it's called Blue أزرق. نرى البحر ولا نراه إلا في المنام. A patch, a glimpse among the antennas أو من بين الأشرطة على الأسطح. How to brave this blue? لا بحر لنا هنا ولا قوة. Sometimes I forget the sea is this close. لنا حب قديم يريد أن يحفر لك في الإسمنت شاطئا. My love, I want to dig a beach for you out of this cement. لنا مطر محمل تارة بعطش الأرض وتارة بعفن الشارع. Oh, old faith and new. Oh, time of wells and time of satellite dishes. لنا الحر والرقص على ظهور المباني قد نرى بقعة بحر من هناك. Are the fish still edible? Our nets are full of plastic and trash. لنا كأس تجري فينا كنبع صغير ننسج فيه سماء وغروبا ونجوما وتراتيلا. My parents threw me in the sea when I was 2, and I floated. They called me little fish. My parents trusted the sea. إلهنا الأزرق لم نعد نعبده وما زلنا نحبه. Oh, blue God, we no longer worship, but still love. لما لا نتذكر البحر إلا عندما تموت العصافير على الشرفات. Over breakfast, I had to convince a friend Beirut was still on the Mediterranean. لما ندون أحلامنا كل صباح? Are you sure? He asked. Is it a deep, bluest blue? ما أجمل الموت بلا ضرائح. Yes, I said. No, I said. ارفعني على كتفيك قبل أن نحرق المدينة. Lift me on your shoulders, roll in the tires, light them up. Oh, city, we no longer love, but still worship. لقد أقسمنا أن نقلع عن عبادة هذه المدينة. Okay, I'm going to end hopefully on a kind of a lighter note as well. This is a poem for my friends and it's called Thank You, Antidepressants. Reader, let me tell you how I keep it together. Friendships and antidepressants. Long walks on the beach with H, he pretends these are workouts, and Nutella in bed with R, she sends boil the water, you better have chocolate from her car, and endless voice notes with L, she calls them personal podcasts, and WhatsApp stickers on demand from F. It is time to MILF, said her sticker with my face and red lips on my 40th birthday. And rants with H, another H, about weight and the lands that spit us out. And talks under midnight bougainvillea with R, same R, about our mothers and children's rage. And daily morning phone calls with L, another L, about nausea and skin and food allergies she's sure she's got, though no doctor can confirm. And I say, if you're sure you got it, then you got it. You got it. And jokes across continents with H, other H, about impossible geographies. And arguments with M about whether we got married in 2005 or 2006. I say our first married summer was a year before the war. And he says, no, it was the summer of the war. And we laugh at how we measure time with pain, but not without tenderness. And conversations with G, better name this one, God, about my dislike for organized religion. and more long voice notes with H, another, other H, about the opposite of grace. This happens daily. So thank you, friends, who are there when the sadness comes, or when my teeth fall apart. My teeth do that bi-yearly. Friends who unscared me of antidepressants, who reassured me I won't become another Z or my grandmother. And yes, thank you, antidepressants, and you, reader, who stayed with me and might be wondering why so many of my friends' names' first letters are the same. And the answer is, when I said together in the first line of this poem, I did not mean it against fragmentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaina. Thank you so much. Our next reader is going to be Jasmine Eli Washington. Artist, educator, mother, wife, activist, and entrepreneur, Jasmine was born and raised in the Bronx and Harlem, and they are still living and working in New York City. Jasmine chooses to use the pronouns she, they in reference to her various personalities developed to cope with the trauma of motherhood, marriage, divorce, and living while Black and female. Their work is currently focused on painting images and messages of love, tolerance, acceptance, pride, and on wearable items of clothing. This wearable art is inspired by social interaction, life, death, teaching, learning, pride, prejudice, abundance, and scarcity. Please welcome Jasmine Eli Washington to the Brooklyn Rail Reading Series.
Thank you very much to everyone for having me here. I feel so honored to be a part of this. I admire poetry so much, and I just feel real honored that you guys will have me with you here today. Jayla's mom couldn't be here because she's planning on junior year for her daughter in September. CJ's mom couldn't be here because she's planning for CJ's special needs classes in September. But baby's mom is here today to read this poem. And the poem was actually inspired by a group of women called Circle of Moms, where we share some of our feelings about how it feels to just be on this very difficult and ambiguous journey of motherhood. This poem is titled Shit. Shit. The fourth trimester is almost over in just a few days, and I don't feel as if I've accomplished shit. I look for words and I can't find them. I can't find shit except for the little bit of shit that's stuck in my afro, and now it's making a few coils of it really stiff. That's some gross shit. Oh shit. There's old shit. I clean it and there's more shit, new shit. And don't forget that concentrated and pure unadulterated baby blue shit. PU shit. The fourth trimester ends in a few days, and there has been some really big shits, some small shits, just shit, wild shit. I could have used the word poop or doo-doo or something like that, but shit just seems to fit. Shit definitely fits the description of all of it, all of it, all of this shit. The fourth trimester finishes in just a few days, and my hair looks like shit and my nails look like shit. My brows look like shit. I lack a Brazilian, I lack a manicure, a pedicure, and my outfit, shit. Do you smell that? Do you smell that shit? Sometimes I can't even do shit. I can't even take a shit unless I'm holding a shitty baby that has a shitty diaper, and shit's everywhere. And my ex-husband, he's full of shit. He's just full of shit. He's just full of shit. Is he shitting on me? Are you shitting me? Is this baby shitting on me while I'm holding a shitty baby, and his father is literally shitting on me, but figuratively shitting on me? Was that too much shit? The fourth trimester is done in just a few days. And just to think of having to deal with all of this shit, deal with all of this shit, deal with all of this shit. I went through a lot of shit. And I heard so much about this shit. Then I learned too much about this shit. And then I went through way too much shit. And now I'm up Shit's Creek. My canoe has tons of shit in it. And I don't even have shit to paddle with. And I'll still be talking shit. Because paddling through shit is just too much more shit for me to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Wow. I am speechless. Our next reader is going to be Mina Zohal, whose work can be found in Apogee, Moxon, the Brooklyn Rail, and Best American Experimental Writing 2018, as well as other places. Her chaplet, Naranj Ha, was released by Belladonna in 2017, and she's also done several collaborative projects with other writers and visual artists. Please welcome Mina Zohal.
Thank you, Anselm. I don't know why my video isn't turning on, but oops. Sorry. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I like left the Zoom for some reason. I don't know, but I can't figure out how to get my camera back on, so I'm sorry for that. So I'm gonna read from some new work. This work is called Parwana. (8/17/21). I'm apart from the impartial visibility of the outdoors. I huddle between the couch and the coffee table, negotiating two approximating forms, two types of knowledges. I'm keenly aware of the crow's banter across the street, but I feel no sense of hunger or the pain of COVID arthritis in my joints. I stare at my pandemic plant wall while I sit with my comrades on Clubhouse. The world grinds and moans as I drive through torrents from my huddled perch. Versatility is indeed amazing. (8/13/21). I sit with my sis John on the phone for 6 hours, 8 hours, days. We sit together on the phone as we watch district after district, province after province fall. We hold on the way one holds on during a car crash. 10/12/21. Do not let despair ravage your soft organs. 8/19/21. Crisis burns you down to the bones. 9/1/21. The surface of my body elongates, stretches out across continents as I engage in radical acts of repair, radical acts of forgetfulness in order to pry my ribs open and pour my strength out for sharing. Rush of light, broken speech. You want your Watan to be free. 12/5/21. We cannot return to some mythical beginning. Let's review the last 5,000 years. 8/15/21. A 15-year-old girl takes 30,000 apps from the hiding place in the wall and crawls out the window. She does not take her taskira. She does not take her passport. She does not take her mother's karitele. Weeks pass. Her mother tells me and sobs uncontrollably. She tries to conceal her daughter's missing form. Amomarduma start writing kitabs with their tongues. She is living in an abandoned house in Makroyan with a bunch of gangsters. She is selling drugs on the street. Itaraf, futaraf, daruch, dum, daruch megan. Parwanam, kujashada. 10/1/21. How do we reconcile living in indebted spaces, closed spaces, when our elders ask us how much more are we expected to endure? How much longer should we overlook our enclosures, this irrational scaffolding? We bury our loved ones under the shade of clouds menaced by the thin complexities of imperial politics. We send texts like shuttered flashes. Date omitted. Parwane Khordam. I actually wrote this section in Darib, but I think I'll read it in English, and maybe a little bit different than I wrote it. Hopefully it should work. Your mother found you in a hair salon. She said that you became very thin and your body was covered in soot. She said your clothes were very dirty. She said you aren't wearing the gold earrings she gave you when you were a baby, the ones you've worn every day for 15 years. She told me what you said. She told me that you uttered bone shatterers. She told me how you resisted when she gathered you up in her arms. You tried to run. She told me what she whispered in your ear and how you surrendered, how you fell to the ground and cried and cried and cried. She told me she took you to where you've been living. Kudam fucking mullah performs a nikah for a 15-year-old child with no parents present, with no identification documents, to become the second wife of some random grown-ass man living in Khairkhana. Kudam fucking mullah. 9/7/21. You're in a domestic space, but the entire world is in there with you. 8/15/22. YouTube link, Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush. 8/15/22. I love you, my lions. 9/2/21. I do not have much firmness in myself, and my senses are screwed to their utmost as I contemplate the difference between torture and war, and I wonder if there is one. News and stories from loved ones flood in and become adhesive noises, cling to my tissue. The body is so solitary, but still it mimics and pursues. It proclaims. 4/14/22. Reify. 8/29/21. Our community phenomenon is magnified. Hands clasp as water spills around us. When the empire displays its barbarism, we consolidate our spheres and raise them up into the air. Whatever went unsaid is understandable. We confide, collaborate, we learn to play chess. Teams are built, mistakes are made, friendships are lost, Friendships are gained, walls are fortified, borders more militarized, international human rights laws are broken, hearts are reconfigured. 4/27/22, the chances of overlapping justice with law is a minute possibility. Immigration law is suicidal discourse. 6/1/22, I see a single image. I see hundreds of images. Khoda komakona. 9/15/21. One does not coincide with oneself. One feels composed of abstract generality. One feels like a portable air conditioner, like a single grain of millet being rolled between two fingers, like the body is a sound, like a secret operative gesturing backward into the stability of impossible desires. 9/19/21. I etch maps of the pauses between US time and AF time. 8/20/21, non-kar azadi. 8/5/22, we receive the results from your bone marrow biopsy. Your treatment begins Monday, 8/15/22 at 12:45 p.m. I contemplate the absurd cruelty of this uncanny coincidence. I feel that a strong wind is blowing, breaking all my limbs. 8/6/22, I postpone my trip to Afghanistan, but I don't tell anyone why. I will see you soon, Bakhair. 8/7/22. One should provide here a detailed analysis of the substance of life and its randomness. Perhaps they are horrified that a rusted sign retains its imperative. The hills, the rivers, the lands. If there is no possible dialogue between gravity and the dead, if there is no back and forth, how is it they prefer one ideology over another? How do they decide? How is it that they pillage and burn my watan? They sick their war dogs on us. They navigate. Date omitted. A 15-year-old child takes 5,000 AFs from her mother's purse while she is visiting her and crawls out the window in the middle of the night. Her abductor/husband comes looking for her because she never returned to Khairkhana. She disappears from the face of our dunya. Parwane khordam, kuja shadi, zinda asti. 9/4/21. The subsequent proliferation of breaks caused by averting one's gaze from discordant sounds coming in from the edge of the horizon forces one to live in a crawl space. One cannot see tyranny if one cannot see a wall. When one cannot enter the interior, when the direct association of imperial crimes is overt, when one's pleasure is scandalous, when logic is adrift. Date omitted. Gather up, put your foot down, make a political decision, think, answer, find answers, do your best, transmit, be a transmitter, gesture consistently toward information while simultaneously temper or airbrush into a blur, a prayer, navigate terror, expectations, hope. Do not avert your gaze. 8/21/22. 8/13/22. Non-kar azadi, the kalba majai amisha. 8/21/22. Sometimes the only thing we can do is play words with friends or read books to each other because everybody has insomnia now. 8/23/22. Imagine being brutally interrupted and at every point a seizure, or rather imagine how to cut yourself adrift while pacing between a monument of persistence and the scenes of massacres. Imagine being indexed, being at the bottom of a pile, being forgotten or simply ignored. Now imagine being so fiercely loved that you can hear your ancestors' rhythmic clapping. Imagine Lake Karga, little paddle boats and cups of shiriach. Imagine staying perpendicular while all the rules around you change. Consider your body a place for birds. Consider the wakan. Consider times of war. Consider a cycle of loss so astounding that you cannot enclose it in a linear context, in a watery context, in the context of place. Imagine eating the best oranges on the planet. Imagine 3 generations of women dancing to their favorite songs. Imagine the warm air in Beirut rolling over the tops of the sugarcane. Imagine a goat in the Tankitel in Logar. Imagine a small parwana. Thank you, Tashakar.
Thank you, Mina. Our final reader is going to be Sahar Muradi, who's also the organizer of today's reading and the person who's brought everyone together. So thank you, Sahar, for that. Sahar is author of the collection Octobers, selected by Naomi Shihab Nye for the 2022 Donald Hall Prize for Poetry and forthcoming from the University of Pittsburgh Press. She's also author of the chapbook Gates, the hybrid memoir Ask Hafiz, winner of the 2021 Patrons Prize for Emerging Artists from Thornwillow Press, and the chaplet A Garden Beyond My Hand. She is co-author of A Ritual in X Movements and co-editor of One Story, 30 Stories, an anthology of contemporary Afghan-American literature. Sahar is a Sustainable Arts Foundation finalist and a Knife of Poetry finalist. She is co-founder of the Afghan-American Artists and Writers Association, directs the arts education programs at City Lore, and dearly believes in the bottom of the rice pot. Please welcome Sahar.
Thank you so much, Anselm. Thank you for inviting me to curate what happens to be the 100th reading, which is such an awesome addition. And thank you, Carolyn, and everyone at the Brooklyn Rail team for making this happen. Yeah, I think like all of the previous curators, I think this is just an excuse for me to round up people I admire. And in this particular gathering, I did reach out to some poets who are also mothers, not meaning that the content isn't necessarily about that, but just as I'm finding myself navigating those identities with some challenge. So I wanted to make space for us all and everyone. So thank you all for being here, friends and family too. I'm gonna just read a few poems. Yeah, I wanna just say it was, it's really lovely to follow all of you. So thank you. Zuhitsu for the new diaspora. In Cornwallville, thinking of Kabul, the hush of new snow and leafless, Balkh, Bamyan, Herat, Jalalabad with its orange blossoms necklaced on a thread. The girls had given it to me that spring, now a bookmark. The blue light of winter morning, icicles on red berries. I watched them fall. We drive to keep the baby asleep. Wet firewood, wild turkeys, a ring-necked pheasant, mistaking hunting posts for tree houses, a wooden stag for new life. G wrote, "Your language is home." Each morning I trace my evictions. N finally crosses the border, 85 hours by bus, a wife and 4 children, his press pass buried in his father's yard. Nangarhar, Kandahar, Quetta, Karachi, Peshawar. Goes to Saturn to get to Venus. Dirt roads and forged papers, 2 5-minute piss stops, bribes the size of windows, a car accident. pneumonia in his newborn. He is 31, hair frosted. My memories begin at age 9. Before that, a long white expanse, mute as a rope. Nothing is quiet about small towns with their hateful lawn signs. New York to Florida and back. I come of age along a corridor, Gregory, Linton, Hawthorne. All my life trying to name the thing without naming it. It says my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me okay? All my life trying to name the thing without naming it. Father's laugh rises from a wound. Every year on the day the tease, your birth was a curse. The year of my arrival twinned with the Soviets. It's August. I stroke the taut lampshade of my belly, a black band bisecting it, a flag, soon my son and his own twinning, the end of an occupation and its harsh exit. Who will I be once the gates open, to have to learn anew the latch, the loop, and how lonesome? I want to be multiple, a hologram, slippery as a foal. In a snow globe shaken violently, 1,000 points of undoing, to be unmoored repeatedly, torn from a soft knit blanket. From this distance, most color is out of reach, just the wide blue gape of disbelief. The witching hour is apparently the baby's effort to process the day's information, a system overloaded, the roar of life through a thimble. Welcome, language laughs back. Opportunity. Who wants to leave, asks Z. Allies. Who wants to be a spore? Sitting by the East River in the sun, trying to recover a new leaf, a stem, some anchoring green in the skeletal season. On the bridge, pigeons, tercets of bubblegum feet, mapping an arc. At last, someone comes to salt the path, to scatter and seed, to lengthen the radius from home. I'm gonna read 2 language poems. What does that mean? I'm not sure. This is called A Language Entirely. She notices the chamal in the trees. We call it dancing. I wonder if I could teach her language entirely in metaphor. This is a leaf yawning to the ground. You have 2 starfish, right and left. The clouds are playing piano again. She already gets this. Of the neighbor's umbrella on the balcony tilted, she says, how? Asleep, folds her hands under her ear, head tilted. To not correct, to allow the pleasure of the construction, of the gesture, how she distills. For giraffe, she runs her hand up her neck. For elephant, 5 fingers swing under her nose. Her economy is expansive, the same single syllable for multitudes. Ma for Mother John, Ma for Most, for Marmite, for Cousin Matine. We must train our ears to her tongue's subtleties. She builds by repetition, reinforces by rhyme. Soon like enters the room. Sound to me like growling bear. Look to me like window. A wedge, approximate. So begins a life of separation. In February, she says plainly under our gasps, grass, trees, and barf like diamonds. Stars, moon, and bed like diamonds. To see one in another is to see as one another. We watch her eyes as much as her mouth. Mucher, she corrects me. I like ice cream mucher. The robot lost its eye. No, the robot is winking. Because to say is to see, the power of a tongue accelerating, revving repeatedly, of teeth marking the earth. We listen with the hunger of old eyes. This is called How Do You Laugh in Dedi? How do you say car in Dedi? How do you say umbrella? She reaches my hip bone. When I gently tug on her golden curl, it goes boing, a coil, like ein, like rein. My hair has always been straight and black, an alif. It reaches my hip bone. In Samarkand, we went to see the tomb of Daniel. It is 18 meters long. They say it grows 5 centimeters each year. It is still growing. It's draped in green velvet with golden threaded ayats from the Quran. Her hair is calligraphy I can't read. How do you laugh in Dedi? She asks with a straight face, not an alif face, her father's face. This makes me laugh and cry at once. We don't teach her Afrikaans except for biltong, lapi, bayadanki. At his former university, there are protests over the language policy. Our language policy is to not teach the language of state violence and oppression, except we do. I came to this country at 3, the age my daughter is now. In preschool, I cried inconsolably. They don't understand me. By 4th grade, I replied to my parents only in English. When my friend Ebony came over the first time, I said, I'm sorry for the way my mother talks. I meant the calligraphy of her mouth. All those years, no one asked us why we were here in the first place. They asked us other petty things so that we would carry their shame instead. The country's language policy works like most of its violences, subtly, supremely, staunchly. By college, I wake up mute and unrooted. They don't understand me. I went to Berlin and asked a German to teach me my language, to show me photographs of her time in Kabul in the 60s. This made me laugh and cry at once. I copied her slides and said tashakar with an alif face. At 24, I returned to Afghanistan with my father. At last, at first, 2 decades later, when I opened my mouth, they widened their eyes. My father's eyes said, I'm sorry for the way my daughter talks. Except I do and continue to, sincerely, scantily, staunchly. By 2, she surpasses her father's Dedi. By 3, she replies only in English. How do you say hegemony in Dedi? The country's language policies draped in green velvet. It is not mine to carry, nor hers. It's Nowroz. I'm late to plant the sabza. She calls it grass. It's still growing, seeds puckered and pushing through the dirt. She tugs on one of the tiny coils. Look, Mama, a sea. I wake up to her joy, fluent and rooted. Yes, I say, for calligraphy, for the golden threads of our mouths. I'm just gonna end with this last one. Well, yeah, right, you end with the last one. Okay. This is called Counterparts. Not all fear can be worked through. The ocean's example, constantly emptying. The nasturtiums she instructed me were edible. We ate the leaf, then the flower. Despite his clouds, he believes in life, how we tire of one another's othering. I count the blessings to keep from hurting him. The day circles as a mosquito. When they lifted the cloth, I saw one that was not you. Stood in my own corridor and remarked the lack of windows. But I preferred to continually peel the orange and reject the fruit. Wouldn't it taste of heartbreak? I was invited to take flight into the red road, to place my palm on the rock that formed the scripture. Grief being vital, its violence being necessary. I rubbed the shadows even in the garden. The prison of living by conviction, so many prisons. I will move more slowly and it will still be a move. Eyes of little night and so aching. His voice high-pitched and proving himself. Back into my own body, eyes. I believe in doom and all its sister griefs. I believe in my thoughts reducing me to negligible. I believe in the words that I make up to color myself. We may not like you, but we love you in a very special way. Embarrassed of my lines that grow out of ether and die in ether. Feel the light shrink, the breath small. May you inch in the direction of trust, hold the tail of your instinct. May you fail and get up to see you did not die. May you expose your poems to the UV, to the later atmospheres of your own doubt. Arrive with the bow taut and he notices, asks if it's pointed at him. I learned from my mother who left mines all across the house. The point was to startle us into guilt. Imagine the future as if your narrow divination could ever know. He and you will be two parallel lines, never touching. He will not leave and you will punish him for that. What are the ways I tried to be free? I wondered against the clock. A kind of life that is not certain but alive. She spoke of fundamentalism as the understandable reaction to capitalist consumerism. Toys don't satisfy the question, why am I here? I look for another answer. My answer is how to make perfect, seal every corner, edge God out. The gnarled root of time, I touched it, it did not speak. The problem was always trying to explain my face to everyone. Here is my will, bright as a firecracker. Here is his will, brighter. In the eye, notice the lake. In the lake, behold the sunken boats. In the boats are worms gnawing on the past. At the bottom of the past is the solid earth. Thank you. And thank you, friends. Ansel, back to you.
Thank you, Sahar. Thanks so much. This has really been a wonderful last hour plus. In a minute, or in a second, we'll throw open the mic so everybody can greet each other and cheer and move on into the rest of the day. But I just want to thank Sahar again, and also Mina, Jasmine, Zaina, and Hyejung for being here and reading and taking part in this. Thanks so much. And I guess now we'll do that, right? Everybody gets to be unmuted. Sahar, we should get together and have coffee sometime.
That would be really great. I am only drinking decaf, but if you don't judge me for that, I would love to meet you.
I mostly only drink green tea, so I just say coffee reflexively at this point.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey. Great job, everybody. Jasmine is my daughter. I love you, Jasmine. You did some great shit. Love is love, baby.
Hey, Jeffrey, welcome.
Thank
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you all so much.
That was amazing, guys.
It was incredible.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zara. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey.
Beautiful
Thank
read. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you. And some
Thanks, Jasmine.
100 more episodes coming.
Beautiful words.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Love the poetry.
Word.
Everyone take care.
Yeah, thank
Bye-bye
you so
now.
much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zaina.
Good next time.
Have a great day. Love is love, everybody.
So long.
Much
Love
love.
you, Jasmine. You did some good shit, baby.
Sorry, Jeffrey.
Love is love. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a great one.